Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. When it comes to retirement withdrawal strategies, one question always seems to pop up. What does this actually look like in practice? Not just the overarching concept of something, say, like the 4% rule, but the month-by-month breakdown, which accounts to draw from, when to do it, and how it impacts taxes. So let's break down how to structure these withdrawals, how to maximize efficiency, and how to minimize taxes. Because when it comes to creating an income stream in retirement, every dollar saved in taxes is a dollar back in your pocket. When it comes to timing, this largely comes down to personal preference. There's no rule book or single right answer, which is why retirement strategies vary so much. Generally speaking, when it comes to retirement withdrawal strategies, I like the idea of a monthly withdrawal. So let's say you want to follow something like the 4% rule, where you withdraw a set amount every single year and then adjust up annually by inflation. Let's say you have $1 million portfolio. If you're following the 4% rule, you would withdraw $40,000 and then adjust that on an annual basis for inflation. The 4% rule isn't perfect, but I do think it's a useful baseline when it comes to illustrating a withdrawal example, but I do think it's a little bit overhyped in the financial space. So instead of withdrawing $40,000 all at once, I prefer to do smaller monthly withdrawals. This allows the money to stay invested for longer, giving it more growth potential, because historically, markets are up far more often than they are down. Predominantly, there are three things to consider when it comes to looking at how to make your withdrawals. First and foremost are required minimum distributions, or RMDs, and they apply to tax-advantaged accounts like the traditional 401k or the traditional IRA. And once you hit the age of 73 or older as of 2024, if you are subject to RMDs, you have to incorporate them into your withdrawal strategy. Next, I'm a big fan of utilizing something like a bucket strategy, where you separate your assets into different buckets. You could use 2 buckets or 3 buckets. If you use 3 buckets, it might look like cash or cash-like accounts in the short-term bucket. Mid-term bucket would hold things like bonds or conservative investments, and then the long-term bucket would hold things like equity. If you use this kind of structure, this ensures you have liquidity even in the event of market downturns. And if you're interested in the bucket strategy or how to refill those buckets, I have full videos on both of those topics. As you make these withdrawals, it's important to keep in mind tax efficiency. As you go into retirement, just as important as it is to have different account buckets, it's important to have different account types. Things like brokerage accounts and tax-deferred accounts and tax-free accounts like Roth accounts. Having a variety of accounts to draw on can help you reduce your tax bill in retirement. Let's say we have a couple where each individual is 67 years old. They're married and filing jointly for tax purposes. They have $1 million in their investment portfolio, broken down with $200,000 in a brokerage account, $400,000 in a traditional 401k, and $400,000 in a Roth IRA. Let's say they want to follow the 4% rule, and from their investments, they want to withdraw $40,000 for the year, but done on a monthly basis, or $3,333 per month. What would that look like over the course of the year? Ideally, we want to keep their tax burden to a minimum. So which accounts should we prioritize? Which accounts should we draw on first? And which accounts, if any, should we leave alone? There are some main objectives for us here. We want to maximize the standard deduction, we want to keep our income in the lowest tax bracket possible, and we want to preserve our Roth accounts. Since the money from the Roth accounts comes out tax-free, it can be used at any time down the road or for emergencies. Before we dive in, key points to consider. The standard deduction is $29,200, and that shields the first $29,200 from taxable income. For seniors 65 and older, they qualify for an additional tax deduction. The amount of that deduction does depend on filing status, but this deduction is available to all seniors at all income levels. For this married couple, being that they are both 67, they would each qualify for an additional standard deduction of $1,550 per person on top of their $29,200 standard deduction, bringing their total deduction for this married couple to $32,300. For married filing jointly, taxable income on long-term capital gains up to a bit over $94,000 qualifies for a 0% federal tax rate. At the same time, let's aim to stay in the lowest possible tax bracket for ordinary income to reduce taxes on our traditional 401k withdrawals. So remember, our goal here is to withdraw $40,000 from our portfolio. I might suggest that this couple take $32,300 from their traditional 401k to fully offset their available deductions. The remaining $7,700 could come from their traditional brokerage account, and this aims to minimize their tax bill. For equal monthly withdrawals from each account, you would take nearly $2,700 from the traditional 401k and just under $650 from the brokerage account, totaling $3,333 per month. Here's a total breakdown for the year. Ordinary taxable income in this case would be $32,300 because withdrawals from the traditional 401k are subject to ordinary income taxes. However, once we apply the standard deduction for this married couple and the additional senior deduction, this tax liability at the federal level is zero. And assuming the investments in the brokerage account are subject to long-term capital gains tax, this withdrawal falls well within the 0% federal tax bracket. So this $40,000 gets to come out tax-free at the federal level. At this point, the question might come up, why are we prioritizing withdrawals from the traditional 401k? And this is in the hopes of reducing future RMDs or required minimum distributions and future taxes. Because at this point, the couple is 67. The writing is on the wall. If they have $400,000 in a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, if that is left untouched, invested, and keeps growing, down the road, they are going to have very sizable RMDs, and that can come with a very hefty tax bill. There's a really big incentive not to touch the Roth accounts because the money in them, if left invested, gets to continue to grow tax-free. The money can come out at any point completely tax-free, and even in the event that this account gets passed on to your heirs, they get to inherit it completely tax-free. Now, I like the idea of paying zero in federal taxes. I mean, who doesn't? But at this point, there's one other thing to consider. I said this couple was 67. So what if they're claiming Social Security? At a certain income level, there comes a point where Social Security benefits are subject to tax. So we could say in our previous example, maybe that's the optimal withdrawal strategy for a couple not yet claiming Social Security benefits. But let's instead run an example saying that our couple is claiming Social Security. We are going to assume the exact same portfolio as before. But this time, we will assume that each individual is pulling in $1,500 per month from Social Security. If this couple only needs $40,000 a year and $36,000 is coming from Social Security, they only have a small gap to fill. And I would say take that from the traditional 401k whenever you need. But let's change the situation a bit. Let's say that this couple wants $40,000 a year from investments on top of their Social Security benefits. What would the withdrawals look like if we want to minimize taxes? The amount of Social Security subject to taxes depends on income. To minimize this, consider withdrawing less from the 401k and more from the brokerage account to stay near key income thresholds. In this case, we might suggest that they still make this withdrawal on a monthly basis, that $3,333 per month. They could withdraw $2,000 a month from the traditional 401k and $1,333 from the brokerage account, for a total of $24,000 a year from the traditional 401k and $16,000 from the brokerage account. Next, we can calculate the couple's provisional income. The provisional income is 50% of the household's Social Security benefits plus the 401k withdrawals, which gives us $42,000. So in this case, for our Social Security benefits, the first $32,000 isn't taxed, but 50% of the next $10,000 or $5,000 is taxable. So this couple's ordinary income for the year is $29,000. Once we subtract their available deductions of $32,300, they are left with no federal tax liability. And again, their withdrawal of $16,000 from the brokerage account is taken out in the 0% tax bracket. So by implementing smart withdrawal strategies, this couple is able to get their Social Security benefits plus their $40,000 from investments for a total income of $76,000 without incurring any taxes at the federal level. Now, if this couple were at an age where required minimum distributions applied, I would prioritize taking that required minimum distribution and then moving on to other accounts. But keep in mind, since required minimum distribution amounts are dictated by actuarial tables, it can affect your ability to be totally tax efficient. What if the market's up? What if the market's down? There are so many caveats that could be said about the examples that were given. One thing I would say about the examples that were given in this video is that they could be ideal withdrawal strategies for, say, a year where the stock market was up. However, if we had a year where the stock market was down, at this point, I would turn more to utilizing a bucket strategy, and I would take money from the cash account. This would allow money in the market to stay invested and hopefully give it the time necessary to recover. Once the market does recover, I would take money from the midterm bucket and the long-term bucket to replenish that cash bucket. Retirement withdrawals aren't just about how much you need. They're about how to withdraw efficiently to minimize taxes. And strategies can vary greatly depending on factors like your age, portfolio, and whether you're drawing Social Security benefits. And remember that retirement is dynamic. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and it can be really helpful to start planning for your retirement decades before you get there and make sure that you're utilizing the right accounts today. That can set you up for a successful future. What are your plans when you get to retirement? What type of accounts are you setting up for yourself? Let me know your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Better day. Gonna start now. The general idea of, say, the rule of 4%, nobody refers to it like that but me, so we need to reword it. I don't know why I referred to it as the rule of 4%. 4% rule. Coming at the age of 23. Awesome. 73 in 2024. Oh, I really hate that noise. Oh my God. If you can hear it, I'm going to like die. I hate that noise. Do you hear it? Like the humming that comes from machinery is enough to drive me insane. It's the worst. I don't know how anybody can stand it, honestly. Like, give you liquidity during